Hi, everybody. We are so excited to have you join us today. We're going to be talking about what does it look like to do research at the university level? And we're going to talk through kind of three different types of institutions: a big state institution, a medium-sized comprehensive institution, and a small liberal arts institution. My name is Megan Mancarian-Stem. I'm the Director of International Enrollment at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, so right in the middle of the U.S. And I'll let my colleague introduce herself.
Thanks, Megan. My name is Chelsea Keeney, and I'm the Associate Director of International Student Recruitment at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and we're located in the state of Minnesota.
Awesome. So we know that when you're thinking about what you want to do when you go to university, and everybody keeps telling you, you have to find a university of good fit. And you hear that word fit all the time, right? Well, one of those things that might be on your list for fit is being able to do research. And so a lot of times you might hear people say, oh, well, if you want to do research, you have to go to one certain type of university, which is actually not true. And so we are going to talk to you about what it looks like actually at all of these different types of institutions. And we're going to tell you a little bit from our perspectives from our universities, as well as some of our personal perspectives as well, and what we did when we went to university. So let's start with looking at the large research institution, and we'll talk a little bit about University of Minnesota and what that looks like.
Yeah, thanks so much, Megan. I think it would be helpful to also define when we're talking about small, medium, large, extra large, comprehensive, these words are thrown around. Now, there's not one definitive meaning for these terms, but when we're talking about a large public research institution like the University of Minnesota, we mean really large. Minnesota has more than 50,000 students on one campus. That makes it one of the largest in the United States, but not the largest. If you can fathom, there are actually institutions that have more than 50,000 students on one campus. So it does put Minnesota at a big end. Minnesota is large public, meaning we get funding from the state government of Minnesota. Research, we're an R1 institution and a member of the AAU, the Association of American Universities. All of that mumbo jumbo really doesn't mean too much when you're thinking about fit, like Megan referenced. And I think it's really simple to think about clothes and fit, because what fits you may not fit your friend, may not fit your grandmother, may not fit your little brother. And fit does not mean an institution is good or bad in a general sense. It means it's right for you. So if you think that you might want to attend a research university that's quite large, here is what I would say would be the benefits at an institution like the University of Minnesota or another really large public school would be depth, breadth, and volume. So for example, at the University of Minnesota, we're spending more than $1 billion, that's billion with a B, every year on research. And we want you as a student to come join us from day one, when you're a freshman, when you're in your first semester. And typically students assume that research is only in a few areas, like, well, if I'm not in science, then I'm not doing research. Megan and I will lose our minds over that kind of comment. It is not true. We want all students in all degree programs to be doing research. I'll add a caveat, though, that it might be an issue of fit to look into what research faculty are doing at different institutions, because what the faculty might be doing at Creighton could be very different from what's happening at Minnesota. It does not mean that one institution is better or worse. It's about if you are interested and if your skills would match up into it. Most U.S. universities now have what's called an undergraduate research program, an office dedicated to working with undergrads. And that's where we want you to go. Those folks are very well versed in having an undergraduate meet with a faculty mentor so that you have this guidance. But I would say a component of a U.S. institution is the safety net. So at Minnesota, you say, I want to do research. We're like, that is so wonderful. Get into this office. We're going to pay you to do it. Here are all the projects. Here's how you write an email. Good luck. Because we're not going to do it for you. what we'll do is hold your hand so that you can find the research program you'd like to join, one of literally thousands and thousands in all fields. We will help you find the faculty mentor. We'll even help you write the email to ask them to join the program, and then you're off to the races. And at a really large institution, you will end up in a research program with faculty, with graduate students, with other undergraduate students, with all types. You could be doing this for a semester, for a year. We've had students who do it the same project for year after year during their undergrad program. Some are very, very short term. They may just only be one semester. All to say, at a really large public school, there are a lot of research opportunities happening. The question is it the right match for you? Megan, can you give us a look at what research looks like at a place like Creighton?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Creighton is a mid-sized university. So we have about 9,000 students total on campus. So research is interesting at a mid-sized university. It's in a way similar to a large university in that there's an office that's dedicated to helping you find research or start your own research project. They help you find funding if you need it, or at least the lab space. And any materials you need like that. I think one of the biggest differences, though, is because we're not as large of a university, we don't offer the same number of programs, which means that if there's a very specific type of research you might be looking to do, we may not be able to offer the support for that just because we don't have that program. So, for example, at Creighton, we have about 150 different academic programs, but one program that we don't have is engineering. So if you are very keen on doing engineering or want to do some sort of research in engineering, we are probably not going to be the best fit for you. However, if you are interested in physics or art history or theater or anything like that we do have, then we could be a good fit for you. But it's great. We also encourage students to stop by the research office from their very first week on campus. We don't have a limit of when you can do research or when you should get involved. Another difference between a large R1 institution and a mid-sized institution is the size of the research projects. We have some amazing research being done by our faculty on campus, but the research teams are going to be a little bit smaller, which could be, depends on what you're looking for. For somebody like me, I preferred to have kind of that smaller team, that more one-on-one setting. So it was great for me. However, when I always talk about fit, especially when it comes to size of university, I always talk about me and my little brother. We're very close. We're very similar personalities. We love people. We love being around people. We even ended up studying almost the same thing. But I went to a small university. He went to another large public institution called Michigan State University. It is because we were looking for two different experiences. He wanted to be around a lot of people and have kind of those opportunities. I wanted to be more in a one-on-one type of a university. And so at the end of the day, we both loved our experiences. We both got out of it what we wanted to, but we were just looking for something a little bit different. And so with that, I also want to briefly talk about the small liberal arts institution. So that's where I actually went to my undergrad, was a university that only had 3,000 students, so a smaller university. And similarly, you could do research there as well. I would say the research was a little bit more limited just because it was a smaller institution, less programs there. But the research was definitely very one-on-one and very student-driven. So, for example, my first year, I was actually a chemistry student. And so doing research, it was just me and a faculty member. It was the faculty member's research project. But it meant that I actually got to do a lot of the work and a lot of the hands-on work, which in one way was a little intimidating, but another way it was such a good experience to be able to really do that hands-on opportunity. So once again, going back to what Chelsea said at the beginning, when we talk about fit, it's about, do these pair of jeans fit you? And you have to think about, what kind of experience do you want? What kind of research do you want to do? Do you want to do something that you're developing it yourself? You're leading it yourself? Do you need those resources? Or do you want to hop on a big team and do these massive research projects that you could do for 4 years? But at the end of the day, the great thing is that no matter what type of institution you go to, there's going to be opportunities for you to get hands-on research. And as Chelsea said at the beginning, you don't have to be a science student to do research. Some of the coolest projects I've seen have actually been in English and art history, and a couple other humanities programs. And I think a lot of people think that, you can't do history or you can't do research in the humanities, but really, it doesn't matter what you study. It's available to you. So I do see that we have some questions in the Q&A, and we have just a couple more minutes left. So let's see if we can answer some of these. So I see the first one we got was, what's the best SAT score for admissions at a university? Chelsea, do you want to answer that?
Sure. The best one is the best that you can do. It depends on the university. Some universities are what we call threshold schools, where they may have a minimum for admission. At University of Minnesota, we're not a threshold school, we're test optional. So if you want to submit your SAT and you do your best on it, great, and you want to send it. Otherwise, you don't have to send it. Minnesota doesn't have a minimum for admission or scholarship. What about Creighton? Do you guys have a minimum for admission or scholarship?
So we don't. So we're actually test optional. And even going into next year, it looks like at this point, about 2/3 of four-year universities in the US are test optional for next year. So, so in a way that takes the pressure off of having to take the SAT if you don't want to take it, or if you take it and you just don't feel like your scores really show who you are as a student, you have the opportunity to apply test optional to so many institutions now. Here's another question about research. So how do I get a research internship as a high school student?
I think that that's a tough one to answer and really depends on a student's positioning. So what high school are you going to? What connections do your teachers, do your counselors have? What connections do your family and family friends have? I want to emphasize that we are looking for reasons to admit you to a university. And sometimes I think students go down this path where they assume if they haven't won a Nobel Peace Prize, then they're not going to be admitted. And what we're looking for you to do is your very best in high school, have a robust extracurricular life, but we don't have wild expectations that you cure cancer before you come to a US university. So if you can do research in high school, it's great. It is an awesome experience, but we're not expecting that you do it. Megan, I have a question for you. I see in the chat someone asked, can we do research in IR? I'm going to assume IR is international relations. Would you dig in deeper about the different fields of study you've seen students do research in?
Yeah, absolutely. So funny that you ask about international relations. I was actually talking to one of our current students yesterday. She's an international student from the Dominican Republic. She is doing a research project this year, actually, for her capstone project, so her final year project, that looks at developing democracies in Latin America. So it's a combination of her two majors, one in international relations and one in economics. And she's so excited to do this project just because the development of governments and democracies across Latin America is such a challenging thing to look at and a thing to research. So she's incredibly excited. So yeah, there's no limit really on what you're studying and what kind of research you can do.
I think that's a great point. A student worker I had from India a few years ago who has now gone on to study public policy. As an undergrad, she did a research project on smoking cessation in religious communities. And in Minnesota, we have a lot of different religious communities. We have a lot of immigrants from East Africa. And thinking that she did this research project and then she went on to Johns Hopkins University. And so all to say, like Megan talked about, it's not just about engineering. And certainly if engineering is your passion, you'll want to go to an institution doing research in that. But to think you can do research in anything, whether it's IR or business or any type of field, and the way that it will elevate your understanding and really launch you into a great trajectory for graduate school or your career.
So with that, we are at our time limit. And so we hope you guys have a great rest of your fair. If you have any questions specifically for our institutions, I did see a few questions about scholarships and other test scores. In 30 minutes, the tables will open and you can come chat with us individually about our universities. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.